Hi, this is Meek with Leap Taken. And here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things craft related, witchy, esoteric, law of attraction, manifesting, and everything else in between. So today's topic is going to be about your home is a sacred space. So this is actually something very dear to me because I identify as someone who is a cottage witch. So home is definitely sacred to me. One of the ways I just want to talk about it is energy. I'm just going to jump right in, by the way. So energy, the energy that you have in your home determines it being a sacred space. Um, do you like candles, anointed candles? Are you someone who cleanses often? Do you use sage or, uh, whatever type of resin or herbs or, incense that you use? Do you do clearings somewhat regularly as a ritual? Um, you know, um, do you just, invoke certain energy into your home? That energy in your home determines the level of sacred space that it is. Obviously, if your home is a place where there's a lot of low vibrating energy, maybe not so much a sacred space. So you definitely want to have high vibrational energy in your home. Excuse me. You want to have, a place where you feel like you are in a place where you can connect with the divine, you connect with ancestors, spirit. You can do your divination. You don't have to be at your altar. You can be at your kitchen table, your counter, your coffee table, on the floor, wherever it is. Your home is that sacred space. So you feel that every room, every space is sacred. One of the ways of achieving that, and I know for me, is repetitive magic, kitchen magic, magic in my living room, magic at my altar, my craft room, my workspace, here at this table, in my bathroom, in my bedroom, wherever it is. That magic is, the more magic you do, it becomes sacred. There's a connection. It's a portal that you're opening, you know, um, in your home to other realms, to access divinity, a goddess or whatever. That's what you're doing when you are setting up an altar space. That's sort of like a portal. If you have your entire home, you can still have an altar, but if your entire home is a sacred space, that makes it to me even better. I'm definitely okay with altars. I have altars set up in my home. I have a kitchen altar. I have an altar that I use in my workspace, but at the same time, if I'm not in there, if someone else is in that room or in the kitchen or in my office or whatever, I want to be able to still do my magic. I want to still be able to do my workings. I want to still be able to read my cards. And I can do that in any space in my home because my home is a sacred home or sacred place. And I'm just looking at my notes here because I like to stay on task. Another thing as far as having your home be a sacred place for magical workings or what have you is to see your home as a safe place in a physical way, as in, to protect yourself from the elements. Typically, a home is shelter, right? From the elements, from the rain, the cold, the heat, whatever. You need to see your home that way in the most basic, natural form, and add in the layer of spirituality. That's what I do. I mean, everything I'm talking about, this is literally how I think about it. Add in a layer of spirituality. This is a place where there is no such thing as psychic attacks because you have wards on your homes. On your home, you have protection. You've already protected your home. So there's no psychic attacks. There's no bad juju. If the other people who live in your home is coming with that energy, you're hopefully already doing spell work so that whatever energy they bring from the outside, they bring in, that is dispelled, that is destroyed. It can't affect you, and it can't affect the energy and the flow of your home. Some people won't want to come into a certain space. Oh, it smells funny, or what's that weird stuff you're burning, or I don't know. When I come over there, I don't know. It just feels too crazy over there. That's a good thing because if you've saged your home, you burn certain incense, candles, whatever, prayer or whatever you're doing over your home to block out negativity and bad energy, bad juju altogether. Guess what? It's working. Those people are feeling that. It is not doesn't mean they're bad people. It's just that they might be bringing negative or bad energy into your home, so they don't feel comfortable there. That's a good thing. The other thing is, the better outlook that you have on your space, your home, the easier it is to consider a sacred space. So if you're living in a dwelling where it's not as nice as you want it, and I've been there before, it's not what you want. You can't afford to buy the type of furniture and the things that you want in your house, and it bums you out. And it's hard to see it as a sacred space because it feels like a hole in a wall. Or you live with other people and you just have a small space. You don't have, a room, a bed. You're sharing your bedroom with somebody. It sucks. It's hard for you to see the whole space as a sacred space. Work with what you have. I've been there before. If your bedroom is your sacred space, then it's just, if your bed and the night table next to your bed or the little space next to your bed is your sacred space, honor it as such. When you come there, you are safe. When you are in that bed, you're safe. When you are under the covers, you're safe. When you're sitting on top of that bed, you're safe. When you put something down on the floor space next to the bed, or if you're lucky enough to have a night table, that is your sacred space. That is where you can interact. That's where you can reach other realms. That is where you can take your energy and put it out to the ethers. That's where you can receive messages. That's where you do divination, whatever it is. That's okay too. So if you don't have a home or house, I should say, that you consider sacred space, because not all of us are fortunate to have our own home right now. If you are in just a space, a section of someone else's space, honor that space, have a different type of outlook. That's mental alchemy. You have to change your view of your area and your space, and basically convince yourself that where you are in that little tiny area, that little section of the bed, is sacred. But if you are fortunate right now, because I'm kind of speaking to a broader home type thing, if you have a whole home or apartment or whatever, that is your sacred space, especially if you live there. And if you are, you have a spouse, you have children, hopefully they're respectful and they understand as well that certain things that you have around the home are to be respected and not to be played with. Leave them here. It's considered sacred to you. I'm fortunate enough to have that experience. So if you're not, then you might want to, start talking to people, because people should respect your boundaries. And if you live in a house and you take care of the house, and, whether it's monetarily, whatever, things that you have around the house should be respected. So, teach your children, teach babies, and, if your spouse, or significant other, they should respect, what you consider sacred. And I'll just leave it there. The other thing is, I talked about altars for a moment. Put up an altar. Put up an altar. Put up an altar in every room if possible. Put up a kitchen altar. Put up a sacred altar in the bathroom. Put one up in your bedroom. Put one up in your, if you're lucky enough to have an office or something like that, put one up in your living room. Now, when I say altar, it doesn't have to be this grandiose magical thing where you have like statues of deities and pictures and things like that. An altar is what you make of it. It could be a tea light candle. A tea light candle on a little plate on top of a cloth. That could be your altar. It could be a little picture or a little sculpture or something that resonates with you and speaks of divinity. That could be an altar space. You put that there, and maybe you burn an incense right there. So an altar is what you make of it. Now, of course, I know it gets a little more specific when you're talking about, like, say, ATRs and things like that. The altar has to be a specific way. You have to, have certain things laid out for, the goddess or the god that you're, doing the altar for. I definitely understand it. So ancestors altars, you have to, they don't have to, but for some people believe there has to be a certain design. But again, those are your ancestors, and they speak to you. They'll tell you what they want. Maybe you don't have that in your living room. Maybe you have that in your bedroom. Maybe you have that in the kitchen. Whatever your situation is. Maybe that's a little bit more private and you have that sectioned off. I don't know. I am fortunate enough to have space for my ancestor altar, and I have that right there in my office. So I'm able to commute. I bless that space when I moved into this home. I bless that space so that they understand this is the place where I'm comfortable. Of course, anywhere else in my home, I feel comfortable communing. I read cards here at this table, my coffee table, my kitchen counter, on the floor. It doesn't matter. But that's typically where I feel more comfortable doing so, and I've designated that space as my primary space. But again, my home is a sacred space where any place I'm at, whether I'm on a porch, the driveway, the garage, or anywhere else, the backyard, I am able to have that spiritual connection. And I feel confident in carrying out any workings or spell work or anything like that. And the other thing I just kind of wanted to talk about as far as your home being a sacred space is, and I touched on this about repetitive magic. Again, I just want to say the more you view your space that way, your home that way, the more you're able to utilize it as such. So I just said I will do a reading. I'll do divination at the kitchen counter. So if I'm literally at my kitchen counter, I don't need to pull out an altar cloth. I don't need to get a candle. I don't need to do a circle or anything like that, because I've already set my home up, and it's constantly energized. This is the best word I can think of. Energized as a sacred space, because I'm constantly using it as such. There are other people who live in my home. It doesn't mean that they're disrupting sacred space by being here, by doing mundane activities, washing clothes, washing your hair, getting angry at something on news, having a conversation that maybe isn't sacred. It doesn't mean that they can't exist, or that I even can't exist in this space. It just means when ready to use it in that capacity, when I'm consciously connecting in that capacity, everywhere in my home is a potential portal to the astral realm, to the spiritual realm, to other worlds, to other entities, or whatever you want to say. Every place in my home, it is possible. That's possible. Also, because some people may think, does that leave you open to lower vibrating entities entering? Again, I talked about protection. Being a cottage witch, I do a lot of protection magic. I think by and large, to identify as a cottage witch, definitely you're like seriously into protective magic. So in my case, since I spent a lot of time on protective magic, I'm gonna say no. But there's always room to invite them in if I think it, if I allow it. If I'm on a lower vibration, then yes, I've entered them in. I'm allowing them to enter into my headspace, my spiritual realm, because I'm on that vibration. So now, like for like. But since I typically don't allow myself to go into that headspace, that spiritual space, that mental space, then no. No. And recently I had a question where someone had asked me about demons and things like that. So that, I don't want to offend anyone, but I don't believe in a Christian faith, and demons tend to fall in that category. So it's not something I'm going to believe in. So I just say lower vibrational beings or energy. And maybe other people, maybe it's just wordplay and they're calling them demons. So that's just my deal. So yeah, that's my whole thing on your home being a sacred space. It is possible to make it so. I think the best advice I would say to take away from everything I said is to practice your magic consistently, possibly some sort of ritual every day. I do a shower ritual at the end of the night, where not only am I doing a mundane physical, just washing, my makeup and just washing myself, I'm also washing away negativity, washing away anything that is attached to me that is low vibrating, any negative thoughts, anything that doesn't serve my greater good or my higher being goes down the drain. I'm washing it away. So that's typically a nightly ritual I do. So therefore, by and large, my shower stall or my bathroom itself is definitely going to be a place that I consider sacred, because I am consistently practicing magic or a ritual in that space. Living room, same thing. You're watching television. There's so much symbolism. There's so many messages and commercials in the different shows that you watch, which is why you should be very careful about the type of entertainment you consume. With all that being said, technically, wouldn't that be a sacred space? Because you're receiving message, and if you're somebody who understands symbolism, and if you understand just the esoteric. That's, again, that goes more into alchemy and understanding, advertisement and how it works is not, it's not always just on the surface. There's some subliminal messages there, and even like the shows that we watch. So, if you're a woke person or a spiritual minded person, you're receiving these messages a little bit more intently than maybe say the general public, who was just looking at it and assuming it's just entertainment when they're really being indoctrinated. So like I said, your home is a sacred place, and every place there's input, there's output. So just be a little bit more in control in your space. And the first step of being in control is acknowledging it. Your home is sacred. It's where you lay your head. It's where you're the most vulnerable. So it is definitely sacred. Honor your home accordingly. Do clearings, do cleansings on a regular basis. Make it a ritual. So those are my suggestions, and those are my thoughts on sacred homes. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, please actually like the video. And if you're new, please subscribe. If you've watched a couple of my videos, it would really be great if you go ahead and subscribe. I am having a ball doing YouTube videos. I expect to grow my content even more, so I would appreciate if you would subscribe. And thank you for watching. Bye. Cheers.